All right, so we're wrapping up our deep dive series on being alone, and this time we're looking at some really interesting stuff you sent over. Being Alone Part 2. Celebrate Your Granny, I think it was called.
Yeah, that's the one. And it really feels like a natural next step.
Yeah.
We spent all this time talking about being alone, understanding it. Now this is about how to actually enjoy it,
Yeah.
to find the good parts.
I like that, and I think the source material you sent over has some really interesting ideas on how to actually do that. One of the first things that jumped out at me was just the idea of finding joy in those small moments.
Yeah, totally. Like how when you're alone, those simple things, a quiet morning maybe, or listening to your favorite song, it's like they become these bigger experiences.
Right. And I think the source talked about how it's because when you're not being pulled in a million directions, you can just be more present, really appreciate those small things that you might otherwise miss.
It was saying something about how that kind of focus that being alone can bring can actually make you feel better overall.
Makes sense to me. And the cool thing is that it's something we can all actually try to do, be more intentional about appreciating something small but meaningful each day. Actually, what about you? What are some of those little things that you find yourself enjoying when you're alone?
Let me think. Well, I'm a big coffee person, so
Yeah,
just that first cup in the morning when it's quiet and I can just kind of savor it.
that's a good one.
I hear you on that one. And it's funny how something so simple can just shift your whole mood, right?
Totally. But getting back to the source material, one of the next big things it talked about was accepting change, like how being alone can be kind of a time of transition.
Right. Not just feeling stuck, but seeing as a time where you can kind of change and grow as a person and maybe new opportunities can come up.
Exactly. It's almost like reframing it.
Right.
And when you think about it in the context of our whole series on being alone, it's pretty cool. Like maybe this is the part where we learn to not just deal with being alone, but actually use it to become better versions of ourselves.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there was a whole section on self-love. Yeah, that was a big one. And it basically said that if you want to truly enjoy being alone, you got to start with accepting yourself. Like once you're really okay with who you are, that's when being alone stops feeling bad and starts feeling peaceful.
It's funny because it sounds so simple, but I bet it's really hard for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. And the source actually had a suggestion for working on that. It said to try and practice self-kindness every day, like making a conscious effort to challenge those negative thoughts we all have, be nicer to ourselves.
That's so interesting. And I think it ties into what we were talking about before, that whole idea of being more mindful and present. It's like by being kinder to yourself, you're actually changing how you experience being alone on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. And, the next part builds on that too. It's
Yeah.
all about honoring your own journey, not comparing yourself to other people, but appreciating your own path and where you are right now.
Perfect timing, too, because we're wrapping up the whole series. I really liked how the source suggested actually planning a day just for yourself, like doing things you enjoy and really taking the time to appreciate your own journey so far.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a whole day, right? It's the idea that's important.
Yeah.
Like taking the time to appreciate yourself and what you've been through.
So to sum it all up, it seems like the big takeaway from this last part of the series is that being alone isn't something to be afraid of. It's a chance to celebrate who you are without feeling bad about it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And I actually thought it was pretty cool how the source mentioned those 3 questions that they asked the LPot community.
Oh, yeah. What was the most valuable thing you've learned about being alone, and how has it changed your thinking? What's your best tip for making the most of being alone? And if you could give someone who's struggling with being alone just one piece of advice, what would it be? I thought those were really powerful questions.
I know, right? Like they really make you think about everything we've discussed in the whole series and how it applies to your own life.
So as we finish this deep dive series on being alone, I want to leave you with one final thought. How will you celebrate your own journey of being alone moving forward? We hope this series has given you some new ideas and perspectives to think about. Thanks for joining us.
And keep those questions in mind. They're worth revisiting.
Absolutely.
See you next time.